Good evening. Welcome to the Dominance Academy. I'm your host, Mr. Justin. And today we're going to talk a little bit about trust. I've got a new mic set up, so let me know if this mic situation is fucked up or not. If it's coming in too hot or if it's too quiet. Yeah, I picked up one of these cool Bluetooth mics, lavalier, so I don't have some big shit standing in front of my face. But yeah, so I hope it's coming in clear. Yeah, I hope everyone is doing all right. I'm also pretty psyched. I got a new pair of J's. Excited about that. Jordan 1s, of course. Thanks, Efren. Appreciate you. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So, we're talking about trust. Talking about trust. Let me turn down this music a little bit. So I've got SUBSTACK. I should probably put the SUBSTACK in the description of the videos too, so you guys can get on some of my writings. And I'm talking about trust because, well, frankly, it's not talked about at all in the manosphere. And that's because, well, most guys don't get to that level. They're either stuck at the level of trying to get attention from women, or what's up, Uncle Guns? Thanks for posting my links, brother. So either they're stuck at the level of trying to get attention from women, trying to get noticed, or they're interacting with women, but they're dealing with them on a very surface level. Like there's nothing really going on. They're just having sex or doing this, doing that. They're wondering if the girl is playing games. Yeah. Like I was talking to this one guy. I think he's going to become a client soon. And he's just kind of telling me about the shit that's going on with his girl. And he's like, oh man, I think this girl's playing games with me. And I looked at the messaging between them, and she's scared. I mean, this is okay. So if a girl is interested in a guy, they're mixed with a number of emotions. Of course, there's arousal, there's excitement, but they're also scared. It's a massive feeling for them because they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's so great. I'm very excited to get with him and spend time with him and learn about him and all that good shit. But at the same time, she's like, is he real? Is he gonna fuck me over? Is he gonna break my heart? Is he gonna do all this, gonna do all that? And you might be saying, well, who gives a flying fuck what is going on inside the woman's head? And frankly, you don't have to care, but it is good for you to know. It is good for you to know what's going on in their head. Whether you choose to do anything with that knowledge is up to you. But the fact remains is that when a girl really likes you, she's really into you, she's excited, but she's also frightened. And how you cultivate those emotions all comes down to, how seasoned you are, how much experience with the human mind you have, how calm you are. Because if you're all scattered and shit, like this guy that I was chatting with, this almost client, he's super scattered. And the thing is that he's like a, really good looking guy. He's successful in his career. So it's easy for him to get women, but he's got tendencies that he gets like emotionally pulled in himself, and he starts misinterpreting a lot of shit because of his emotional state and his own lack of like psychological development and understanding of the game. So he's like thinking that she's playing games when it's really because he's not leading and cultivating her. Okay. So when you start when you start interacting with a woman, and let's say she likes you and you think she's pretty cool, you have to take on the role of like a gardener. Like it's now your role is shifting into being this one who cultivates. Unfortunately, most guys, they just turn into a consumer, and they do their best to see how long they can keep her around so that he can consume her for as long as possible, either until he gets bored or she gets bored or she finds something better or he finds something better or what have you. Okay. And you don't really get anywhere with that. You don't really get much of anything, except for like, a few squirts, a few moans, some orgasms, like, nothing really to write home about. And the thing is that once a woman starts understanding that you are like this, that you're not a cultivator, it can pull her in, of course, right? Because she's like, oh my gosh, I like you. I want you to cultivate me. I don't want to be this thing like flapping in the winds behind you as you run off and do your thing, right? Because they always say like, make sure you're busy, make sure you don't give her much attention, and she'll chase after you. Yeah, but while she's chasing you, that means she's behind you. Like, you can't do anything with that. No, you don't have to. I'm not saying that the ultimate position is a guy to be in a cultivating position. Fuck, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to grow anything, right, then you don't have to. Not at all. Like, some of my friends, they're just straight players. They just like to skip the rock across the surface of the lake, and the depth of the women is centimeters deep. They could give a fuck. And that's totally fine. There's no rules to life, right? Except like the legal rules that we set up as far as society goes. But if you do want to grow things, and I do think that a large amount of guys, they actually want to do this. I think they actually want to grow relationships. I think that it's part of a man's nature part of a man's nature is to spread his seed and fuck a lot of girls and all that shit, But at the same time, it's also part of our nature to nurture things, right? We just do that. Like, we get something, like we get a car and we fucking polish that shit. We vacuum it. We're fucking putting armor all on the tires. We're doing all kinds of shit, Like, I'll take like 2 hours to dedicate to like detailing, tuning, and fucking around with my bike, just because it's just something that I care about, that I need to take care of, that I like taking care of. And us guys, we have that in us to want to take care of things and grow things and repair things or what have you. Even if there's no problem present. And so I do think that while this narrative of, oh, guys should just be out here and smash all the girls that you can, and it's like, all right, cool. Like, if you want to do that, it's fine. But I do think that it's a strong thread amongst tons of men. I think the ones that are lying to themselves that they should be players, they actually just would like to have a girlfriend. And in order to do that, you have to learn how to cultivate and like bring her into the depths of herself. And that can't really happen if she doesn't trust you. Okay. And trust is a really tricky thing. Okay. Now, of course, there's a caveat that is, if she's had some shit going on in her life, then it's going to be hard. It really is. And that's just the truth of the matter. If she's had some trauma, if she's had a rough upbringing, if she had, abusive parents, if she had some fucked up situation happen to her in her past, it's going to be difficult. I promise you. Unless she's gone through years of therapy or what have you. But here's the thing. Scars can heal, but they're never the same. You know, like many years ago, I crashed my motorcycle when I was, well, not many years, like a bunch of years ago, when I was 16. I crashed my motorcycle. It was actually not mine, it was my brother's. I had a big, heavy fucking 1972 Suzuki GT Water Buffalo 750. It looked very similar to the Honda CB, but this was the Suzuki answer to that kind of bike. It was upright, classic, beautiful bike, lots of chrome, speckled blue paint, 3-cylinder. And he had this little Suzuki Katana 550. I mean, this was tiny and agile, a lot of fun. And he's like, hey, you want to try this out? And we're out in like these back roads of Pennsylvania with a lot of twisties. And he's like, let's switch bikes. So I got on his bike and he got on mine. And the roads out in the boondocks of Pennsylvania are only cleared from debris from cars driving on it. They don't like sweep the roads out there. So the gravel is just moved away by tires. So there's gravel like on the edge of the road. And I was taking this corner, it was a left there, and I ran it a little wide, and the tires hit the gravel, and boom, the bike ran out right from underneath me. I went down. I was only wearing jeans, but I had leather jacket, leather gloves, helmet, leather boots, just my jeans. And denim shreds like fucking rice paper when it hits the pavement. And I opened up my knee. It wasn't a big gash, but it was deep. Like it went down to my kneecap. And I had all kinds of gravel and grass stuck in there. And, you know, it healed and so on. I'm fine. And, but the scar tissue there, it feels different. Like you put your finger over a scar and the nerves are just not the same. It's weird. So it's healed. There's nothing wrong with it technically, but it's not the same as the regular skin around the scar. And that's what I'm saying about emotional scars. It's kind of the same way, where a woman certainly can heal, okay, from some sort of injury, but it's not going to be the same as something that's just not been injured in the first place. Okay, so if you do start interacting with a woman who's had some sort of shit going on in her life, just understand there's going to be challenges. And you could be doing everything right, so to speak. Basically, not giving her any reason to distrust you, okay? And so you've completed your half of the trust dialogue. Her half is her ability to trust, okay? And if she's not done any of the work, if she's unwilling to do the work, it's going to be like pulling teeth. And it's going to be a very slow process. If you've got the patience for that, fine. If you don't have to stick with her. You know, her problems don't have to be your problems. But it's going to be a lot easier if it's a woman who, if she's had some emotional injuries, that she's taken care of them. She's gone to therapy and there's scar tissue, and it's not exactly perfect, but you know, it's healed. Or you deal with a woman who has not had emotional injuries, at least not too severe ones, right? Because I think throughout life we all get some kind of bumps and bruises. But gashes, third-degree burns, you know, and it just, you got to ask yourself, like, is this worth it, right? And the funny thing is that, like, a lot of times those girls are a lot of fun, you know, because they get into partying, they get into wild adventures, they get into, you know, promiscuity, and it's like a means of coping, right? Because these things can bring about acceptance, right? Because sometimes an emotional problem may lead to rejection of the self, because so-and-so caused some sort of emotional turmoil and it caused a belief shift about the self within the woman. And now she's like, I don't like myself. I hate myself. There's a lot of guilt, shame, self-rejection, hatred even. And then she can cope with this by putting herself in situations where men accept her. And what's a great way to allow men to accept her? By fucking them. Because that's an easy thing. Guys are like, hey, I want to fuck. And she's like, I hate myself. I want someone to accept me. I'll fuck you. And so it's like, yeah, she enjoys it on the surface, but underneath what's really happening is this satiation. I don't know if that's a word, but satiated, this desire to be accepted, to be validated, to be not rejected. So part of her psyche is like, I'm okay, really, because look at all these men who want to fuck me, or all these men who have fucked me. I must be okay. I must be worth something, you know? So there's just a lot of shit, okay? So, you know, getting into trust is kind of a weird thing, but the deal is that when you get into trust and start opening up the gateways into vulnerability, shadows, right? Shadows of the self. This is where real power dynamics can actually flourish. Okay? Because power dynamics is not about fucking just doing shit, right? You know, like this guy that I was talking to, like I mentioned, you know, we'll call him Paul, who's, you know, making his way to becoming a student, but he just moved and he wants to like settle himself and shit. So like Paul, he's done the things and he considers himself a dominant. However, he's got trust issues of his own. And he routinely brings in women who have trust issues. So it's like birds of a feather, you know what I mean? And so in his mind, because, you know, when you've got problems that you're partially or completely aware of, it's like a knock, it's a dent on your self-image, right? And depending on how sensitive the ego, you don't want to see yourself in a bad way. So you're like, no, I'm the shit. And then you validate that by going, look at all this cool stuff that I do. I mean, that's how Paul does it. He says, look at all this cool shit that I do with these women. Okay? I'm the man, right? They want to fuck me. They do this stuff for me. I get to do this. I'm dominant, right? Yet he's scared of actually making any kind of real connection, because when you do that, it calls into question your own ability to really lead, right? It's one thing to say, get on your knees and suck my dick, and she's like, okay, boing boing, and she's like sucking your dick. Like, that's not really dominating a woman, okay? Because like whatever, it's so easy to copy that behavior on her part. It's not a huge feat, you know what I mean? But for her to hand over her will, to have her slow down or even stop thinking and say, here, think for me. I'm going to trust you with my entire soul, that you're just going to guide me and not drop me and shatter me all over the floor. When someone does that, it calls into question your ability to actually handle that situation. Can you actually handle a woman's psyche and not drop it, right? Or are you like a fucking caveman and you're just like, I want to fuck, right? Like, all the fucking's gonna happen. I mean, like, when a woman is like that, she just wants to have all of her holes filled with cock, like yours, only yours, when she's completely submitted to you. When there's complete trust, when there's complete vulnerability, when fear is like out the fucking window. So the sex stuff, it happens. It's a given. Okay. So I'd like to read to you one of my excerpts here from Substack. If you want to check it out, just do a Google search, Substack, The Dominance Academy, and you'll see my account. Please subscribe to it. I just started it, so, you know. And within there's some really cool diary entries of a submissive, so you can see her end, her internal end, of what she's going through and the thoughts and the feelings and things of that nature. It's really interesting. Okay, so here we go about trust. There is perhaps no softer fabric in the making of a submissive heart than trust. And yet it is not soft. It is not lace. It is not velvet. It is bone. It is the scaffolding behind the posture. It is the silence before the command. The breath caught between please and yes, sir. And like all things which cannot be seen but are deeply felt, trust must be approached delicately, not as one approaches a horse with sugar in the palm, but as one approaches the self in the long mirror, flinching sometimes, yet still standing. Submission is not a collapse, not a fall from one's footing. It is the folding in of strength, the choice to kneel, not from weakness, but from recognition. But how is one to kneel without knowing the floor? How to bow without knowing if the hand reaching toward your nape is filled with reverence or conquest? This is where trust becomes the cathedral in which all things kneel, not because they must, but because they can. In my own small observations, I've noticed the world does not make this easy. It tells the submissive that her longing is a sickness, or that her obedience is a lack of agency, when in fact it is her sovereignty. To choose to surrender, truly, is the most demanding use of freedom. It requires a mind that does not wander at every harsh tone, that does not tremble at withheld affection. It requires, above all, that she trust not only him, but herself. And the dominant, he must hold a silence of his own, not the silence of absence, nor of disinterest, but of steadiness. He becomes the floor, the rhythm, the unmovable sky under which her chaos softens into stillness. And that is no small demand, for trust is not simply earned by good intentions. It is cultivated deliberately, like a slow polish of a leather strap. Again and again, care, consistency, and patience and presence. To command without trust is not dominance, is theft. It is theater. It is the sound of footsteps on a hollow stage. But to command with trust, that is music. That is where the edges of the self blur into the body of another, and suddenly we are no longer performing power, but embodying it. It begins small, a rule, a ritual, a whisper that is obeyed, not because she must, but because something inside her wants to. And with each act of obedience, with each act of care, the thread pulls tighter, not choking, but weaving her into him into her, until you can no longer tell where the command ends and the desire begins. Let the world misinterpret. Let them call it a play acting or a pathology. What they do not understand is that trust in submission is not an accessory. It is the spine, the altar, the room of one's own kneeling, not alone, but in the presence of someone who has earned the right to hold you open. So that, I think, is really the crux of it. That part about how trust is these threads pulling tighter around, but it's not a choking, it's a weaving her into you, right? And it becomes the spine of what you're doing. It becomes the spine of the dynamic. And this is what I'm getting at. Like you can't fucking like pretend this shit. You know what I'm saying? Yes, absolutely, Ephraim. You have to conquer your own shadow before you can bring her into her own vulnerability. And it's like I've got guys who they desperately want to put the horse or the cart before the horse because they think, oh, if I do the thing, right? If I get her to wear the collar, if I get her to be on her knees, if I get her to say, please, sir, can I suck your dick, right? Then that means she's submitting, right? Right? No. I mean, like seriously, like just because you do that, does really that means she's submitted? Like think about what I just read. That's some deep shit. That's really what's going on, you know? And it doesn't happen through the doing, right? The doing doesn't create the being. The being creates the doing. So how do you create the being? Well, it has to be cultivated. And it can't be cultivated if you're fucked up. If you're needy, if you're scared, if you're angry, if you're overprotective, right? I mean, of yourself, which will cause so many barriers and stipulations and say, no, you can't do this and I want you to do that and this, all in the name of protecting your ego. You're going to get nowhere. Nowhere. Sure, you might have a dynamic, but it'll be fucking as deep as a puddle, right? Now, it is true. Not all dynamics are created equal. There's plenty of people who play, and it's just a play dynamic. Okay? And that's perfectly fine. But if you want to go deep, if you want to create an experience that is transformative, right? Not just for her, but for you as well. Because it's like you're leading, of course, but so your weaving creates her changes. And then because she's adapting, of course, you never stop growing, right? And it grows into something new and she adapts to that. And then you keep going, you grow, and she adapts, okay? So you continually have to grow. It's not like, all right, I read the book, I got the toys, I did the thing, I have a wardrobe full of black clothing, I've arrived. Well, I've got news for you. You never fucking arrive. Never. You can arrive into the neighborhood. Okay? Like you can go from like neighborhood of like stupid, ignorant loser and come into the neighborhood of self-awareness. Okay? Into the neighborhood of manhood. Okay? But once you're in there, there's never like an end point. You're never going to get to this place of completion and say, I've arrived. It's done. You know, like Thanos, you know what I mean? Like he did all that shit, the fighting and this, that, the other, collecting all the gems. He did the snap and boom. And now he's like, my work is done. I can sit and watch the sunset. You're never going to have that moment. I'm sorry. Never. Especially if you go on this path. Okay, you go on this path of manhood, this path of self-discovery, this path of understanding power dynamics. It's never ending. You're never going to feel like you get it all. Because something will happen and you go, fuck. I didn't see that. I didn't even consider that. Right? And this is why it's important to have mentors. Okay? I've got different mentors that are in wider and deeper understandings of various things in life. And they have their people. You know what I'm saying? It just goes on and on and on. But as far as like trust goes, that's where they open. Okay? Like I can read you another little excerpt. Let's see here. Okay, what did she say? Pardon the delay. Okay, so this one submissive, actually, it's a practice that I've been doing for a little while now, where I will ask questions, right? And these questions aren't for me, it's mostly for her, okay? It's for the girl so that she can explore her own mind, okay? I care, but I don't really care. It's whatever, it's not for me. But it's just another way to lead, okay? There are these open-ended questions that require them to think and have introspection. So, there's a couple of books that have these, and I pull from those. I come up with some of my own, and then other ones I use ChatGPT for. And, it's quite fun, right? So I was asking this one about being desired as a submissive versus being desired as just a regular woman. And this kind of goes into the trust thing, right? So she says, personally, I feel that when I'm desired as a woman in general, what others often crave is mostly my appearance or the image I create, sometimes even intentionally. It takes time and many layers to truly understand and see the core of a woman. And for someone like me, those things I create are often a form of protection, like a shield to guard what's inside. So you understand what she's saying is this facade, this image that she creates that men lust over, she treats that as armor between her essential self and men. And guys think that when they get that version of her, that they've gotten her, when they've gotten nothing. They've grasped at smoke and go, look at the girl I've got. I fucked her. No, you haven't. You've not even touched her. Even though you've touched her with your hands, you've not actually touched her. And so she says, and for someone like me, those things I create often form protection, like a shield to guard what's inside. There's parts of me I try to hide, or parts that only someone truly special is allowed to touch. But when I'm desired as a submissive, it feels much deeper and more intimate to me. It's not just about how I look, what I show. It's about the way I completely let go, how I surrender, how I trust, the way I genuinely want to offer myself. It's like, even when the Dom sees the darkest parts of me, he still wants me, steadily, unwaveringly, the kind of desire that feels far more powerful and deeply precious to me, my lord. So, that gives you an idea, right? The power of creating the pathway that allows a woman to walk into trust. And you know what's part of that is? You have to clear its pathway from all the dicks that you want to lay in there. I know it's tough, okay? Especially if you're a young guy. But you've heard girls say, like, oh, he doesn't want to get to know me, he just wants to fuck, okay? And then that turns one off, right? Or sometimes it doesn't, okay? But a lot of times you hear that. It's like a common trope, right? Like, oh, he doesn't want to get to know you, he just wants to get in your pants, okay? And we think getting to know is finding out about her family and her upbringing, and if she's got a dog, and where she went to school, and, when she got chicken pox, or just bullshit. Like, that's not actually knowing a woman. All of that is just superfluous nonsense, okay? Getting to know her is actually no real data, okay? Like, this submissive, I know her, okay? Like, I know her on a knowing level. Like, when you just know something, but it's not like you have any kind of data saying this is why and how I know the thing. You just know, like, you feel it, right? So I know her, but there's no data backing up what I know, but I know her for sure. That's the knowing that women are talking about. And they can't show that. They can't allow that if you're just driven to fuck, okay? Because that's so easy. Like, that's like most women, if they're attracted to you, they're going to want to fuck. They like sex way more than we do. Way more. Okay? Like, they have fucking transformations. They have out-of-body experiences. This is, like, sex is not just sex for them, like the way it is for us. Okay? Like, imagine every time you came, you fucking tripped balls. Like, you just took like a hit of LSD. Okay? Like, that's kind of the way it is for them. Maybe not that intense, that cerebral, but it's close. Okay? Like, if that happens, you'd be like, damn, the way you like sex as a man is not even close. Okay? But the thing is that to get there, they have to let go of like so much shit. They have to let go and be free to get to that point. Again, you don't have to. If you don't give a flying fuck, you just want to bust it down for 5 minutes, come on their face and call an Uber, that's fine. I'm not judging anyone for their life choices and how they want to deal with women. You know, as long as you're not beating them, I mean, like in the bad way, like with bad pain, then I could give a fuck. So, but I know that a lot of guys, you know, they'll hear this stuff and be wondering, you know, they're going to be wondering like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, that sounds kind of cool, right? It sounds kind of cool to hear, like, I wish I took screenshots of what she had said. I mean, like, this girl, she's basically like, you could, like, we were going over, I made the standard BDSM agreement / contract or whatever. And she's like, yeah, I trust you so much that, you know, wait, so let me rewind. So there's a section in there about finances, right? And it's negotiation, right? It's not saying like this is what's going to happen. And there was a part in there about finances and job. And it was like the dominant has control over your finances, dominant has control over your job. And she's like, well, what is this? I explained it to her. And she's like, well, actually, I would be completely fine with that. Like, I would totally put my trust in you that just all of my money is controlled by you. My job is controlled by you. You know, if you say don't go to work, then I don't go to work. If you say go to work and fucking stay there, then that's what I'm going to do. Right? She said, you know, other women don't really care. Like, as long as you're fulfilled and this is what you want, I will not get jealous. So this is like the woman like putting her whole stock, you know, like I know guys who are just like Tesla to the moon. They've taken so many fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars and bought Tesla stock because they're all in. They're like, fuck it. I'm trusting in this. That's what trust is being all in, right? Because if you're like, nah, if you're not bidding all in, you're not shaking the pennies out of the corners, you know what I'm saying? You don't quite trust it. You're like, you're holding on to it. If you're like, maybe it might fail, so I'm just going to hold on to this. I'll keep it a little secret. Nobody's going to know. And she does that with her trust too, right? She won't empty the bank account. She'll just keep some for herself because she's like, well, duh, I'm a modern woman. Like, why the fuck would I do that? Right? I'll put most of my trust in him, but geez, I don't want to be stupid. You never know what could happen. But the thing is that just that little bit. Now, I'm not faulting women. Like, there's good reasons not to trust, both in herself and for whatever man that she's dealing with. So it's not like a demand. It's not a prerequisite. Like, I get it. But the thing is that when there's any amount of holding back, it's compounded on the amount of freedom that they can achieve. So if I could explain this maybe like in numbers, to give you an idea, like if they say holding 10% back of their trust, okay, they're holding on with just a little bit of skepticism, just a little bit. And like, it's not a big deal. That, in terms of their behavior, it compounds when it becomes behaviors. And now that little 10% turns into a 40% effect in the behavior. Because it cascades through. It builds momentum. And there's tremendous effect. So she doesn't actually get to be who she wishes she could. Because from my own experience, now other guys could argue with this, but or just explain their own experiences of this. But from my own experience, I've not come across a woman who deeply inside desires freedom. freedom from her own head. Where if you really got down to having a heart-to-heart sort of conversation and say, if I could be a genie and snap my fingers and you had no more worry, no more stress, no more lightning speed internal dialogue, you had no more anxiety, and it wasn't because of the drug, it just wasn't there, would you take it? And I would say almost 100% would. I would love to say 100%, but nothing's really 100% in life. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But I think the vast majority would. Of course, a chance like that to not feel the way I feel on a daily basis. All day long until I go to sleep. Or until I have that glass of wine at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Or for those brief moments when my man's like really fucking me hard and for a few seconds I'm not thinking. All right? But imagine waking up and that feeling's not there. The mind isn't spinning away the way, the red pillars like to call the hamster wheel. Okay? That's massive. But to get there, she must bring in all of her trust. And guys, if you're not getting all of the trust, you can't squeeze it out of her. You can't coax it out of her. You can't demand it out of her. You can't force it out of her. You can't manipulate it out of her. Okay? It comes about as a result of your presence and luck of the draw. And by luck of the draw, I mean is coming across a woman who has an upbringing or a background that doesn't prevent her so much from trusting you. Okay, she hasn't had a slew of experiences fucking up those mechanisms. All right. So, like, if you're into this, any of the shit that I've been talking about for the past, 43 minutes, do yourself a favor and don't get involved with girls who have problems that happened in their life. Okay. This is why it's important to not make a woman your woman until at the very least, 12 months have passed. Because no one can hide forever. These little things, they'll start popping up. A little story here, a reaction there, where you're like, that was a weird reaction. Like, why did she react that way? And you don't want to men don't jump off into conclusions or reactions themselves, right? Everything is, interesting. Okay, like, it's been noted in the captain's log, okay? And that's why you need that time. That's why you need to control your lust, all right? So you can see what the fuck is going on, all right? Now, of course, if you don't give a fuck, just fuck, right? But if you do, that's why you need to get a span of time, right? Like the best studies, when they're studying, something, be it in sciences or medicine or psychology or sociology, the longer time that they have, the better, because they can collect more and more data. Okay. Now that means it takes longer to process, but you get more out of it. And this is, I think, the smartest way to go about things. And you find that she's got these things going on. You got to be like, hey, you know what? This really just isn't a good fit. And you have to cut it off. Okay. Because the thing is, and I explained this to Paul, okay, the lady that he was dealing with, she had this, right? She was a horny party girl. She had her fair share of bullshit. She outright said that she's learning to trust him, and like basically, when I'm interacting with girls, all I see really is a little girl. Like, I don't care how old she is. There's that little girl inside all the time. And either she's carefree or she's just kind of like regular, or she's scared and hurt. And I can see the scared and hurt little girl right away. And this lady, she definitely had that scared, hurt little girl. And I had to explain to him, I'm like, listen, like, you have to make a choice, right? Either you're just going to fuck this girl a couple times and then throw her back in the water, or you're going to take her on, in which case you don't know what the fuck you're doing in terms of like real leadership that's going to be effective for someone who's like this. You know what I'm saying? You can't just like rely on be like, oh yeah, I'll just like figure it out. No, like you actually have to know certain things about psychology and how women think and how emotions are processed and all sorts of shit. And it's like, if you don't want to take that on, then you kind of have to stop things, because what's going to happen, the way he was dealing with things, is he was doing that superficial dominance, right? Where he was doing he was doing domination, not being domination. But even in doing domination, it can start pulling her down in, okay? And if your being is not ready, if it's not cultivated itself in order to handle someone after you've pulled them in off the surface into the depths, into the void, then you're going to be unprepared and she's going to get fucked up. Or you're going to realize that she's got a lot of fucking shit and you don't know what to do. And you're like, fuck, what did I just get myself into? All because I just wanted to get my dick wet. Right? Just get a hooker. It's easier. Trust me, it's easier. You know, and like he's got a good moral, compass. So I know he doesn't want to just leave a wake of even more fucked up women behind him. Right? Like, you got to be pretty damn cold to be like, you know what? I don't give a shit about these other humans. I'm just going to leave them in a wake of even more damage. Right? I'm not judging. I'm not saying like these guys are the scum of the earth or anything like that. But it's like, I don't know. We're all here together, on this planet. It's like selfishness and, there's selfishness and then there's selfishness. And, one is completely destructive. And it's like, well, do we really want to live that way? Right? Do people want to remember you that way? Okay. I don't want to be, right? I want to be remembered where even if that person's not a long fixture in my life, I want them to look back and go, I don't know where I would have been if I hadn't met Justin. I don't know where I would have been in myself if it wasn't for him. Whatever interaction we've had, that's what I'm after. Right? Effectiveness, whether it's short or long. And in order to be effective, in order to have like real influence, like I talk about the fucking Conan shit, right? What is steel compared? What is a sword compared to the hand that wields it? Okay, like that's real influence when you start shaping the way someone feels, the way someone perceives themselves, the way they perceive reality. This starts becoming not just a fun influence that you can do, it becomes somewhat of a responsibility. Is this something that you want? Is this something you care for? All right. Like I like managing different little things. It's not a big deal to me. I see it as more of like a creative exercise that fires me up. Okay. But if this stuff doesn't fire you up, by all means, don't do it, because it's gonna build resentment within yourself. It's gonna draw energy out of you. Okay. And that's something that I was explaining to Paul. I said, listen, she's got a lot of resistance. Okay. And with a lot of times, like a submissive girl who has trauma and has resistance, this often shows up in the form of bratting. Bratting is a really acceptable form of cope, right? And it's a defense mechanism to prevent somebody from getting in too close while having fun at the same time. And it also tests the dumb. It tests to see what he's made of. If he's creative enough, witty enough, intelligent enough to outsmart you and put you in your place without force, okay? Maybe, pardon me, like maybe it will result in a little bit of fun physical force at some point. But at the onset, it's all about wit and intelligence, sharpness, mental agility, okay? That's how a lot of brats are tamed, okay? And I know many very intelligent doms, okay? But they're not all cut out for brat taming, okay? Because if you're not cut out for it, meaning it doesn't fire you up when thinking about how to deal with someone who's like this. If they were to engage with them, surely they're smart enough to tame the brat from moment to moment whenever it shows up. But what will happen is it will drain them because it's taking them out of their natural state. They have to expend more energy to behave in a certain way to make her, shift, versus somebody who's already there and can just make her shift because that's how he naturally is. And this is what I was explaining to Paul. Like, she had this defense mechanism. She was protecting herself. She was being bratty. And he's not a brat tamer. He doesn't know much about it. He doesn't have the skill. He doesn't have the heart for it. He doesn't have the constitution for it. And so when he was doing this, it was pulling energy out of him. And he wasn't feeling drained. Okay? When it's the right woman, you feel enriched. Okay? The right woman is actually like a battery. And when they come into your life, it inspires you and you become more productive, more creative. And part of that, if she's, on your program and you've got a good dynamic and things like that, part of that energy feeds back into her like an alternator, right? So like the battery in the car, that's for the startup, electricity goes to the alternator, goes to the system, and then goes back to the battery, okay? So that's kind of the circuitry that can happen in a good dynamic, where part of your energy that she gives to you turns into some sort of creativity or productivity, which then goes back into her, just like the alternator puts energy back into the battery. And then it charges up the battery and you recharge her, which she then gives back to you, right? And of course, what guys do is they do this without her being integrated into the wiring harness, right? Meaning she's not on the program. So he ends up giving the energy and she's not giving it back into him, right? This is what simping does. Okay, this is what grasping for control does when she's not on your program. You're trying to force her into doing something, or coaxing her into doing something, or manipulating her into doing something. Okay? That's not real. Right? All that shit, the force, right? Whether it's pushing in the way that I just described, or pulling in the way that a simp does, all right? The pushing and the pulling, that's not natural. That's not natural flow, okay? It's trying to make something happen either in overt or covert ways. And that's going to end up draining your energy because she's not locked into your wiring harness. And then another problem is that you don't even have the wiring harness in order for her to plug into. You know what I'm saying? And that's the program. There's so many fucking prerequisites. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you really, really want a woman to follow you, obey you, worship you, devote herself to you, there's a lot of prerequisites for you. I'm sorry to say that. That's just the way it is. Like, you have to be a certain way. You have to contain certain qualities, a certain mindset, a resolve about yourself. that you don't get from fucking lifting weights. I'm sorry. You don't get from making a lot of money. I'm sorry. You don't get from knowing a lot of people and having a strong network. I'm sorry. It just, those connections don't make you into this person. I mean, it's great to have those things for sure. Okay. But it's not going to make you into that person. Whatever devotion she has because you're rich is not real devotion. It's conditional devotion. And I think we're all well aware of that. Real devotion requires someone who's in a state of being which she can devote to. And you're like, oh, that's not real. That's not real. I'm hoping that in the future, we'll see. We'll see. Okay? You'll be able to meet one of my submissives. I'm not sure because a lot of them are really kind of scared about being on camera, for good reason. But we'll see. We'll see if there's something I can work out. Maybe give them a nice mask to wear. I'm not sure. But you'll see how the behavior is just different. You'll be able to feel a difference in presence. Where you're like, man, I've never seen a woman behave like that before. And that's, yeah, I'm just saying, you can't like buy your way into this. And that's what the, getting shredded, that's buying into it. Working on your network, that's buying into it. Working on your career, that's buying into it. Okay. Like learning game, like the shitty kind, not the fucking, like PUA nonsense. Like that's buying into it. You can't buy your way into manhood. It just doesn't work. Like one of my clients, he's like a very well-known tech mogul in Texas. He's quite wealthy. He's made a number of businesses, inventions, and he acts like a little kid. Like he's super fucking smart, okay? But he behaves like a little kid sometimes. Actually, a lot of times. Like the first time that we met, he was wearing this crazy, like scatter colored dress shirt, like it looked like fucking Cirque du Soleil. And I'm like, this is like what millionaire dudes wear? You know? It's like something you might find at like Salvation Army, where it's just like, oh my God, like really? Who would buy this? But yeah, but he came to me like, because he had the things, he had the network, he had the money. I mean, he's much older, so he didn't have like the body, but he was lacking that presence, that manhood presence that you just can't purchase. It has to be cultivated. It has to be grown. And that's just the way it is. Glad to be listening to this real game at the early age of 18. Well, thank you for stopping through. It's like, it's so funny. It's like, you young guys with all of this connectivity, with so much information in the world, you have such a great advantage. But at the same time, you have such a great disadvantage. And I'll tell you why. So when I was in college, I was writing my own music. I was like producing my own like electronic music and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I need to like learn like the real principles and things of that nature. So I took an electronic music composition class and I took a history of jazz class. And when I was in the electronic music class, they had all kinds of shit in there. They had old Korgs. They had one of the very first synthesizers ever made, and it was like a giant switchboard, like those old school where you see the lady with the headphones and she's plugging things in. Like it was like that. It was like sine waves and sawtooth waves and brown waves, and like it was bizarre. Other modern synthesizers, crazy computer system. And they had Pro Tools. And now, if you're familiar with Pro Tools, it's basically a limitless sounds program. Like, you can spend days just looking through one particular category of effects and testing them out. And then within each one, there's sliders where there's just infinite variability. Okay. And so we had this project. We had like our final project. We had to, make a song, and I got all my shit, and I sat down in Pro Tools, and there's literally so many options, so much choice, so many ways, different possibilities that I could go, and I was frozen. There was too much out there for me that I could do nothing. So I said, you know what, fuck it. And I brought in my turntables, and I started laying down some beats, did some loops, some scratching, did some processing in the Pro Tools, but that's about it. And that was my final project, because I had to simplify. Okay. And that's part of the problem of the young guys out here, because on one hand, you're having someone like me or some of my other constituents talking to you about real shit, like real wisdom that can help you out. But at the same time, there's a fuck ton of other things out there that are getting in your head. You know what I mean? And this is how we get these fucking red pill cults developing all over the place. People eating fucking Tide Pods. Like, when I was a kid, like, you'd say, like, oh, go eat some laundry detergent. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would I do that? You know? But you guys are like, that's a good fucking idea. Let's go. Start popping Tide Pods. It's like, I don't get it. So, but then also, it's like, if I wanted to learn something, it had to been processed through academia, which takes a long time, and then published, and then like, or like reviewed, and then edited, and then published, and then it makes its way into either a school or a library, and then I have to have the idea to want to go find the information in the first place. Okay. And then make my way down to the library and check it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just pop into YouTube, ding, 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 and then it's like, oh, you like this? Here, I'm Mr. Algorithm. I'll show you things that are quite similar. You'll probably like this too. And then you just get sent on these threads of information. Okay? And yeah, you're gonna come across some fucked up shit and dumb shit and funny shit, and taking you off your pathway. Which is why I tell you guys, you need to guard your mind as much as you can, especially with passive forms of information such as music and videos and shit like that, because it just gets in so easily. But you've got just tremendous opportunity, okay, to learn and grow. But the irony is that you guys are stuck behind your screens. You're scared. You're all about theory and who's got the best theory, and like, attacking each other with your fucking fingertips, right? Like, that's not really being a man. I'm sorry. Like, trolling somebody or owning somebody in a virtual space, like, that's not really, like, a digital cock is not a real cock, right? Just so you know. And like, well, I can bitch slap guys online with the best of them. It's like, well, congratulations. You're not a man. Yes. Yeah, well, like 18 is kind of young, I think, for coaching. So I always recommend taking notes and heavily consider coaching. Yeah, this is what a lot of guys. Oh, sorry, Uncle Guns. I thought this was Efren saying this, but yes, yeah, guys definitely should be taking notes and getting coaching. Um, yep, no trading coaching is something you're still earning money for. However, got a circle that pushes me in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, really, at a young age, you have to have strong filters, right? Because you're so fresh, your mind is so like ripe that you actually have to just do a good job of preventing bullshit from getting in. And that's why we have our parents. Ideally speaking, is that our parents serve as these guardians of our mind. And if you don't have that, then well, you have to do it yourself because you know young people tend to surround themselves with idiots, like the dumbest people. Uh, and we've all had that experience. I have. But the majority of my friends when I was younger were actually adults. I had two, three friends that were my age, and they were all knuckleheads. So, but like as I progressed, I just bonded and understood the adults more. So I just hung out with them because I don't know. I guess I've always been like a cerebral person, so I was always like not into doing dumb shit like car. Hey, what do you want to do tonight? Let's car surf, right? Like, nah, I'm not really interested in that. I'd rather like go training, right? And like that kind of sets a certain pathway when you start taking your own life and certain things very seriously. And you'll hear people say, "Oh man, you got to live a little." It's like, no, you live a little when you've established things. You know what I'm saying? Like you have it like backwards. They're like, "Oh yes, there's this old phrase that says, the youth is wasted on the young," and that's so true. Like you blast away youthful years having fun doing dumb shit, you know and that's the time for cultivating the self, going inside and pushing outside, right? Growing all that inward stuff, and then learning to extend and gaining that strength and that the conviction and the courage to push out into the world, okay? Because it always pushes back. And that's where time and energy should be spent, not fucking around with other morons. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're just going to become like them. Of course, once in a while won't kill you. I enjoyed going pool hopping, like breaking into like the backyards of rich people and swimming in their pools late at night. But yeah, because if you do that, then later on, you can chill more. You can be more creative with your time. And that's just the way it goes. But you'll see the people having fun early on, and you'll know. You'll see it in a number of years, and they're still doing the same bullshit. And you're like, damn, like you were just hanging out in this corner like 3 years ago. You're still hanging out in this corner. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Right? Like, I don't want to be anything close, even remotely, to what you are. Not at all. So it's important to surround yourself with people who have a building mindset, an expansive mindset. And I don't mean I'm gonnas, okay? I don't mean I'm gonnas. I'm gonnas are the worst fucking people. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit. I want to hear I am. Like, I'm doing this, not I'm gonna do this. I am doing this. What are you doing? I'm doing, right? And they can tell you like what they're doing. All right, I'm gonna or I'm trying to. I can't fucking stand those people. Like, they just want to talk, to sound like they're doing something without actually doing something. It's like, oh Jesus, like, just be quiet. I don't care. I don't care about your ego, right? And like helping you feel better about yourself. I can give a fuck, right? So surround yourself with people who are only doing things. not do nothings. It's ridiculous. Always spend your time with productive people, positive people, optimistic people, problem solvers, right? Not problem makers or those that just are apathetic and they just accept shit for what it is. And they're like, yeah, well, this is life, whatever. Like I've known guys who are like that too. And I know them much later in life and they're the same way. And they're like, yeah, whatever, that's life. It's like, the fuck? Like they're the same guys who are like, hey, you want to go fishing this weekend? And he's like, well, I got to talk to the boss. You know how it is. I'm like, the fuck I don't. No, I do not know how it is. Talk to the boss. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot you're missing. There's a lot you're missing as men without really getting in touch with yourself, without communing with yourself and not putting that aside for the sake of, keeping somebody happy or, stay in their good graces or making sure that they like you or accept you or any of that bullshit. It's like I tell my guys when they first start working with me, if they've got a girl, I just say, hey, you need to understand right now that there's a very good chance that you might lose her. But, that's one of the things is that in order to gain yourself, you actually need to learn to let go, which is just one of the very many ironies in the game. There's so many ironies in the game. So to gain, you must let go. And that's not only for you, but also for any woman that's on your program. They too must learn to let go, and they gain everything. The less ego, the less pride, less identity that they have, the more they gain. If you know how to provide that, which they gain. I'm just trying to find this message here. Yes. They did this fun little thing where, I had her write, this girl is yours, this ache is yours to be taken as yours. And she wrote it in like nice script penmanship. She didn't have any idea what it was. It's just get a little piece of paper that can fit in the palm of your hand. And then cut it so it's small, like no excess paper. And then I had her wear that in her panties, pressed right up against her pussy all day long. And she's like, what the hell? But she loved it. She absolutely loved it. So that's the thing when, and that's light. That's light. I just, showed you guys that just because it's fun. But yeah, that's light work. But the point is in bringing that up is that when you are more free, you've let go of your concerns, you've let go of your fear, you've let go of judgment, you let go of shame and guilt and all the bullshit that just fucking weighs you down like in the cartoons when they have like the big steel ball, the prisoner, and they've got this chain and it's like clasped around their ankle. Like that's all your bullshit. And you walk around like dragging this thing behind you. And some people will pretend it's not there. And they're like, nah, like this is just the way I walk. They're like, no, like it's cool. And they like try to repaint it. They like spray paint it and throw some glitter on it. And they're like, no, it's like an accessory. It's my style. They're like, no, that's just your bullshit. That's your judgment. That's your, your guilt and your shame. And yes. Oh, this message. I finished the meeting, my lord. Yes, she calls me my lord. That was her choice. She's like the ring of it. But the thing is, like, when you let go of that stuff inside you, hey, Boxing Dave, good to see you, man. So, you can lead more creatively. Like, I can present anything my mind thinks of. Anything. There's no hesitation, right? Like, I wrote another thing on Substack about that, about hesitation. And it was called, oh no, I'm sorry, it was on Instagram. I'll turn it into something longer for a Substack. But it was all about the samurai and drawing the blade. And the thing is that, in swordplay, you never like draw the blade and you go, no, I'm changing my mind, right? Like it's a full decision. It's like a singularity of minds that what the fuck? Like I've got like a mustache hair that's like curled up, and it keeps tickling my nose. So if you draw the blade, it's full commitment. It's like there's decision in motion, and someone's getting cut. Someone's dying. It's either going to be me or it's going to be my opponent. That's what's happening here. It's full commitment, full resolve. Okay, singularity of mind and action. All right, and that is the whole thing of like betting on the self and shit like that. Okay, and so this is the freedom that you get when you don't have that ball and shame, when you don't have that judgment and the shame and the guilt and the criticism and the beliefs and all this bullshit that you've, like that ball, it starts off as like this little pebble, right? And like, when you're like building a snowman, you push it and push it and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what happens over time, right? These beliefs get bigger. They become more established. They start becoming more believable. Your shame grows, your guilt grows, and all this bullshit just starts growing and growing. And now you've got this massive steel ball attached to your ankle. And this prevents you from moving well. Okay? But once you learn to start severing that off, okay, you cut it off, you can think more clearly. You can move with more freedom. You can be more decisive because there's no judgment of your decisions. There's no guilt of your decisions. There's just conviction. And you don't have to, and some guys will think, oh, well, I'll just act more convicted. Maybe I'll be more bold in my voice. Maybe I'll be more assertive with my decisions, okay? And so it's an act of trying to trick the self. That's what that is. Trying to trick the self into believing that you don't have that steel ball still attached to your ankle. Real resolve doesn't require aggression. You don't have to convince anyone that you are there. Okay? That you're in that state. It's unnecessary. Like real resolve, it's grounded, it's focused, it's calm. Like why would it not be calm? Right? Resolved means like completed. There's no question. The circle has been completed. Bink, it's done. That's resolve. So this, when you relieve yourself of that, this is what allows you to be creative. This is what allows you to have freedom to be whatever. And there's no fear of like, what if she doesn't like it? That thought never crosses my mind. ever. What for? I'm not going to, like, I know I'm not going to cause harm. And if she thinks there's going to be some kind of harm, either she's going to speak up or she's going to say, I'm not interested. And say, hey, cool. No problem. Because, like, why would it be a problem for me? You know? Now, if it's a barrier for my expression, okay, because I have experienced that before, where they're like, no, 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 no. And now there's no pathways for me to express myself. Now it's like, I'm a painter and they're like, you can't have this color, you can't have that color, you can't have that color, you can't have that color. And I'm like, well, I just have like orange and blue. I can't make a real painting with just orange and blue. I'm sorry. This isn't going to work out. You're cute. I like spanking your ass, but it's just not going to work out. That's not enough. I need the avenues to express myself. I need all the paints, right? So I want someone who's like, here's all the paints. Use them all. Make a masterpiece. Please, go. Enjoy. Have fun. I'll make some tea and put on some music. Go for it. But you don't want to be able to just kind of settle for what allows you to. Now you can intermittently, because it's practice and allows you to experience certain situations to express yourself. Because here's the thing, human interaction, right, requires more than one. Okay? So the guys who I'm working with who are not interacting with women, who don't have a woman, they're not having any kind of dealings, it's difficult, right? Like that's like learning to samba with just yourself and no partner, like no dancing partner. It's really hard to learn the samba without somebody there. You can kind of, sort of, but it's not meant to be taught that way. It's meant to be learned with a dancing partner. Okay? Or like trying to learn to paint a landscape, but you don't have a canvas, right? You've got the brushes, you got the paint. Like, yes, you can learn about color theory and you can learn about composition and things like that, but you need to be able to apply to the canvas, And I sometimes call my girls my canvas because that's what it's like to me. I'm just painting on them. Sometimes literally. But this is like, so it's required. And if they're of a certain way that prevents you from expressing yourself, then you just gotta either take it for what it is and not try to change it so you can do more of what you want. No, that's going to be expending too much energy, like Paul, right? You just accept it for what it is. And do what you can, and then when it's run its course, say, listen, okay, this is not what's conducive for either of us, okay? Because ultimately, the ideal situation is that the woman feels a certain way, she's reacting to the guy of the way he is, that she becomes the canvas willingly and wants to be the canvas, okay? And then you don't have to push her or convince her or educate her or this or that or whatever. It's like, it's just a natural thing. Okay. But again, it always starts with the guy. It's helpful if you have worked on yourself to develop in such a way that she's like, I'm comfortable being the canvas. I wonder what you're going to paint. I wonder what you're going to make. I trust you. I trust that you're not going to rip me or damage me or turn me into a monster, right? But man, once that shit's there, like it's seriously like the possibilities are endless. The possibilities are absolutely endless. because this one and another one, they're very much affected by audio, right? My voice, just something about my voice they really bonds with, okay? And stories and pictures, right? Not actual pictures, but pictures drawn in the mind. So I started taking some of my stories, my erotic short stories, and translating them into audios for them to listen to, right? And then that transitioned to hypnosis tracks. And soon before it got into that, it was just sort of like dreamy, suggestive material, right? And then it moved into more structured hypnosis, and they're just fucking lapping it up. And I'm telling you, the psychological and behavioral effects of this stuff is tremendous. But it also just comes from willingness, because you're like, okay, I trust Mr. Justin's not going to harm me, right? And so that softens the mind, softens the soul, and then the body just does whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter, right? So I hope that this show illuminated you guys to, some of the complexities. And frankly, if you get to the end here, you go, you know what? That's a bunch of fucking shit. That's a crock of shit. It's unnecessary. And I just want to come on some bitches' faces. Perfectly fine, man. I don't care. If that's what makes you happy and you're not harming anyone, go for it. I really don't care. Okay? But for those of you who did enjoy this stuff and you, it's got your curiosity going, right? I want to hear from you. Okay? You're welcome to send me any questions you like. You could email me at justin@thedominanceacademy.com, and I'm happy to have a conversation. We can have a chat over some coffee and, and discuss all this stuff, right? So, yeah, great. Thanks, Guns, for posting that. On the website, there's the, if you guys want to get coaching calls, there's options for the packages on there, as well as how to create your constitution and your program, which are the essential tools for moving forward as a man. I don't care how many fucking BDSM books you've read. If you don't have a constitution and a program, it's like, well, it's useless, right? It's like getting a Ferrari that's missing its engine. It's just not going to work. You need that engine. All right, guys, I'm going to close this out. It's almost midnight here in New York, and it's a nice evening, so I'm going to just hang out on the deck and relax, maybe do some writing. Thank you for stopping through. I appreciate everyone who's been here on the live, and I appreciate those who are catching this on the replay. Thank you all for your support. Take it easy.